Hello, everybody. Welcome back to session 2 of day 1 of HENNGE Talks. Hope you all had a very nice break, and I hope we're ready for the next session of the day, Next Gen Company Culture. Just as a reminder, HENNGE Talks is an event for us to share what it's like to work in a B2B cloud security company here in Japan, as well as share some insight from our experienced engineers and to hear what they have to say about the topics at hand. My name is Sean, and I work in the engineering talent acquisition team here at HENNGE, and I'll be the host for this talk and the next one coming up. Hopefully from this talk, you will gain some insight into what it would be like to work in the development team in our type of company. So yeah, today we have 2 of our experienced engineers with us here today. So let's have them introduce ourselves.
Okay, hello everyone. Hope everyone have a great day. So yeah, my name is Iskandar and I'm currently working as the Deputy Division Manager in the Cloud Product Department team. And I've been in HENNGE for almost 7 years. I think this October will be my 7 years in HENNGE. And I joined as a fresh graduate and yeah, climbing up software engineer, senior software engineer, and now become the deputy manager of the division. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yay! Next up.
Right, hello, nice to meet you. My name is Bagus. I'm working as a deputy team leader of the HENNGE archive, email archive team. And just like Iskandar, I've been here for quite a while. September of 2015 is when I joined. So this is a few days into my 8th year in HENNGE.
Wow, nice.
And yeah, same as Iskandar also, I was a fresh graduate when I joined. And yeah, now I'm the deputy team leader of HENNGE email archive team.
Yay! All right, thank you both for the brief introduction. So yeah, you both mentioned that it was HENNGE is your first company working in Japan and everything, and I'm sure a lot of the audience as well has some preconceived notions about maybe Japanese working culture, things like this. May I ask maybe some initial thoughts you had before signing up for the company or like trying to interact with us, and maybe how that has changed after joining? Maybe we can start this, Iskandar.
That's an interesting question. I mean, definitely when you hear about Japanese company, you have this negative kind of perspective. Like, oh, probably there's a lot of overtime working, and yeah. But once I joined the company, I realized that this kind of problem doesn't really exist in HENNGE. I mean, I can just like start working like 10, finish working at 7, so that's pretty normal here. And like people here are also kind of the culture itself, like very open. They kind of communicate to everyone. It's not like always like from the top to the bottom, like, oh, this is the direction. We don't do that in HENNGE. So I think that's kind of a very nice, that's why I still work here for 7 years.
Anything to add, Bagus?
I pretty much feel the same way. And definitely before I came to Japan, I heard things about overtime, things like that. Whereas in HENNGE, the approach is a little bit different. Whereas we need to work a certain amount of hours a day, a certain amount of hours a month. And as long as you fulfill that, then yeah, as Iskandar said, the rest is just flexible. And yeah, I also got the impression that maybe people are a little bit distant. That hasn't been the case in HENNGE so far in the 7 years that I've been here. And yeah, I've made good friends in this company, and yeah, it's been a good time.
Yeah, definitely. Some of our interns actually call us like an oasis in Japan, which is very flattering words. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, I think HENNGE definitely is a little bit different, and Japanese working culture does have its kind of preconceived notions, like overworking, right? Definitely is a big one. Like staying after hours. I've heard of most people, they don't go home till like 9, 10, especially maybe before. But yeah, here today we're talking about HENNGE culture, so let's get into the main topic of the day. So yeah, today we want to cover like what it's like to work in our company and like a B2B cloud security company in general in a global environment. So we want to go through kind of the day-to-day of what it's like to work in our company, and yeah, here's some real-world, experiences of what it's actually the day-to-day looks like. Because I know before you actually join a company, I think a lot of the audience knows that it's hard to get a real idea of what's happening. Like, I know like, oh, I have to answer some emails probably, attend some meetings, but what does the day actually look like is very different, especially once you start joining or when you actually start working. So maybe we can hear from Iskandar what a typical day-to-day looks like for an engineer working here.
So when I joined as a fresh graduate, I think most of the work at that time were mostly engineering-related works, kind of like writing the codes, reviewing other people's codes, had a meeting to discuss about the milestones. But as I climbed through like the senior positions, that actually like more meetings. So we kind of like try to gather everyone's thoughts or insights, and also had like kind of these kind of meetings to make a decision for everyone based on everyone's feedback. And other than that, I think it's kind of similar to any other IT companies that we have this kind of like release cycle, and some teams they do Scrum, some teams they do other methodology. Yeah, and how about Bagus from your experience?
Yeah.
Right. In my case, it's still mostly development rather than management. And my day-to-day looks like we have stand-up meetings every day. Some would say that's quite a lot, but so far I think it's a nice balance so that we keep in touch with everybody. Because in my team, we're currently transitioning into the next version of our project. So we need to keep in touch with everybody as much as we can. And then we also have meetings with other divisions, of course. That's not as often, that's weekly. But most of my day is, in my case, I still program quite a lot. And yeah, basically have asynchronous communication using our communication tool in the office.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, so you guys both mentioned kind of a little bit different kind of structure. Is it every team very different in how they operate? Maybe specific on a company as well, but in general, or is it pretty similar with like small variations? What do you think?
That's an interesting question. So in HENNGE, our development team is separated based on the products. So we have kind of like access control team, email archive team, email filtering teams. And for the technology stack itself, it's like it really depends on the team, like even the methodology like Scrum, it totally depends on the team. But for the team composition, it's about kind of similar. So let's say this team will have 2 or 3 back-end engineers, 2 or 3 front-end engineers, mobile, QA, infrastructure. But on the details, like how the team want to implement it, let's say, do you want to use Python or do you want to use Golang or let's say ECS, Fargate, those kinds of technical details, it totally depends up to the team members to decide.
Anything that Bagus? Maybe like how your team structure, like how it operates really does differ. It sounds like the number of meetings and things are very different, Iskandar. And you also mentioned that right now you have a new project kind of to change the versions. Does your dynamic change based on like where you are on the timeline of your project, or how does that affect it?
The new version obviously affects how we operate day to day. And so we basically discuss more about the new version, and then we still need to maintain the old version as well. And I'm also part of the meeting with other teams and divisions, so I know that other teams do things differently.
Right.
And when it comes to HENNGE, I think as long as we can make the case for it, I think everything goes, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you can, not prove, but if you have like a good enough solid reason to pursue something, right? Definitely the higher ups are much more open to allowing you to try things out and implement new things. Yeah, okay. Maybe next we can go into a little bit about how projects are managed and tracked. I kind of want to get into that since I believe, as we've been talking about, right, each team is different in how they operate. So maybe Bagus, can you walk through like how your team's projects are tracked and managed?
All right, so in my team, we use GitHub quite a lot, not only the issues and PRs, but also the projects view. I think we kind of rely on it a lot, especially to manage both version 2 and version 1. And we link every issue to a pull request. I think our audience are familiar with these concepts. But the tool that we use is mainly GitHub. And then, as mentioned before, we do a lot of asynchronous communication using messenger tools. We use Slack in our company. And those are basically what we use. We even use them, we refer to them in our meetings and stuff like that.
What about Iskandar? Anything different?
So on the higher level, we need to communicate with other stakeholders, right? We need to communicate with the PM teams, we need to communicate with the CS team, we need to communicate with the sales team. So we actually have another tool where we put everything on the board. So this board basically for everyone to know, like, this is the midterm goal, this is the long-term goal. And after that, this will be discussed with each teams. And the team itself, inside the team, they can kind of make their own style. So let's say some teams, they use the same board to make the sprint timeline. Some teams, they move, let's say, to the GitHub, let's say GitHub boards, the projects board. and some teams they just use, let's say, Google Docs. So it's really up to the team, but yeah, we also have this kind of shared tools to have easier communication with other stakeholders.
Right, right. How does the different methods of keeping track of things, does that cause any, bring up any challenges when you're collaborating with other teams? Or, can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's an interesting thing because each ways have their own pros and cons, right?
Right.
So let's say with sprint, you have this kind of release cycle and you kind of needs to finish certain amount of tasks in this timeline. But let's say some other teams, they kind of have more, how do I say, ways of testing. So they actually needs longer time and it's not fixed. They need to pass a certain level of QA to make sure the access control is secure, for example.
Right.
I think it also depends on the product itself. And the other is the stage is important. If it's an early stage, there will be a lot of discussions. But if it's kind of the late stage, there's probably more maintenance or more regular work that you need to do. So I think that will be totally depend on the team.
I see, I see. Anything to add, Bagus? Any other challenges maybe?
Yeah, as Iskandar mentioned, sometimes we use different tools and methodologies in our teams, but definitely we also communicate about generalizing some of these stuff, right?
Yeah.
For example, our product management team, for example, they use product board, as Iskandar mentioned. So our team also try to adapt to that. So yeah, it's a constant balancing act.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah.
So we keep learning from the other teams
Yes.
and sharing with each other, basically.
Yes.
Continuing to change and evolve like HENNGE people. Yeah, but anyway, so we've been mentioning a lot about how each team and each member really has a lot of autonomy and freedom to kind of make decisions and to bring up new ideas that we can test and maybe implement to our work. I believe that's pretty much in general, I think a lot of people refer to that as bottom-up culture and this kind of flat structure and all these things. So maybe if you can, Bagus, if you can give sorry, if you can give us a brief description of what you would say bottom-up culture is, just so we're all on the same page here.
Right. Iskandar already mentioned this actually.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
from your perspective.
From my perspective, the bottom-up culture that I'm most relevant with, is when we are presented with a problem and we have options of tools or approaches that we can take. We don't get that from somebody else most of the time.
Right.
We get to do it. We get to decide on our own. But again, with that amount of freedom, we need to again make our case about it. So why do we choose this? Why not this? And I found that I do that quite often in GitHub issues and stuff like that. I need to communicate with my team members why this is the way we go with, and why not this way, something like that.
Yeah, as both of you being more senior members in your team, I feel like that is much more easier to implement as well, at least from my perspective, right? Being a senior member does give you a little bit more, even if it is a flat structure, a little bit more authority in decision-making process, right? So can really junior members actually bring in new ideas? Of course we say we do, and we would like to hear the ideas, but how easy is it for maybe junior members to bring in anything new technology that they find or some new concept or new stack?
Yeah, definitely. I think the interesting point here is we as the senior members, you probably know more about the product, but we don't know what happened outside the company. Sometimes we might lost track. But when newcomers join from outside, let's say they are fresh graduates, they have this new knowledge that they bring from their university, or even it's another mid-career that just recently moved from other companies. They know how the previous companies are doing things. So we actually often have this kind of cases. So let's say they introduce, in HENNGE we usually use Fargate with ECS, but in my previous company we use Kubernetes, and this is the benefits. What if I introduce this new stack to my current product? And when the other members say, that sounds nice, then we will use it. Or for another example is years ago, someone brought Sentry. Sentry is kind of the error tracking tools. And it got introduced to basically everyone, and now all products team but already use it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think both of us in our early days especially, we got issues not do this in this way, just do this, and then in the issue we actually need to research the options that are available. I think both of us did that earlier in our career,
Yeah, it sounds like really fun, but also maybe comes a little bit of extra stress, maybe, or like a little extra challenges, right? Like it's you have to be very proactive, right? I think that's really important in our field and this kind of company culture, especially if it's bottom up, that each member really needs to bring in their own like ideas. It's really important to be proactive and to be able to speak up and research all these things on your own without being asked to. I think that's really important. Yeah, this is what we teach our interns as well, right? For the global internship program, for those of you interested, students. Just a little plug there, but yeah, please check out our website, and if you're interested in working with these two, maybe you can try out for the internship program. But yeah, anyway, to digress, go back a little bit. Yeah, so the bottom-up culture, all this, like it does sound very nice, but again, going back to a little bit more of like the pain points of what could make it. Why doesn't everybody just do this, right? What is the what are some of the cons of these things?
So yeah, I think one thing is like we have a diverse people in HENNGE. We have like people from more than 10 countries, and actually, when someone like share their opinion, we actually feel the difference. Like say in how different cultures like perceive things. For example, like people in Japan, they like say always on time, and in the website they use like these kanji characters on the layout. But let's say in English you have like different UI. So we need to take all of these into considerations because we want to make a global world level products, right? We want to support both Japanese and English speaking, or even more language like Chinese speaking and so on. So we need to take all of the, let's say, even the design level opinion. And the other things is definitely we don't want to have a single point of failure. So let's say if one of the members fell sick, then he's like the senior members and who will make the kind of decision. So we need to have this kind of like a failover system inside the team itself. And I think that's also the benefit to the members too, because they can like share their thoughts, they feel appreciated, they feel belongs to the teams. And yeah, I think there's a lot of pros definitely from this method, but I think the pain point is definitely you need more time because you need to get everyone on the same page, and sometimes when some members have different opinion, then it needs more time to resolve the difference in the opinion or the conflict.
Yeah. I want to emphasize that last point actually. Consensus, I think, is one of the biggest pain point, because again, I keep mentioning this, but we do things differently, but it can't always be that way. Sometimes we need to agree on some things, and that's something we need some practice sometimes. And also related to this, the communication thing. I remember in one of our trainings, they say that Western people do it like in a sandwich thing, conclusion, reason, conclusion. There's people from the East, they go like background, analysis, and then conclusion. So the way we communicate is also we need to adapt to both sides, right?
Styles,
It's not like one is right, one is wrong. It's just we need to cater to the most number of people we can. And communication is the key to all of this, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, even our team ours is much smaller, but still, like even for like opinions on like, which design do you like better, which method should we choose? Like we want to accommodate everybody. We want everybody to be able to speak, and we want to hear their opinion. Maybe even if it's like consensus, like this one person maybe will not affect the overall decision, but we still want to give them the opportunity to speak, because that kind of
definitely.
Yeah, it does give a sense of belonging, which I think is really, really important, and what really drives the collaboration in our company as well. Yeah. Nice. So maybe we can zoom out a little bit. So we've been mainly talking about the development team and the dynamic of each team within the division, right? So each product part has more of a different structure, how they work, different methods of how they approach things. However, I think this isn't like the whole company is like this, right? There obviously is some sort of direction of like where the product should go, like overall, and that kind of just trickles down and separates, right? So so can you share a little bit about how that top-down and the bottom-up kind of meet in the middle in the manager position, since both of you kind of climb up the ranks, right?
Yeah, I think as mentioned before, the communication is definitely important. We have like regular 101, that's one thing. So every members usually have 101 with their team leaders every 2 weeks, and the team leaders itself, they have like this kind of 101 with the managers every like once a month or every 2 weeks. And we, even as the manager, we also have 101 with the executives level. So we can bring like all our feedbacks or all our concerns from bottom to the executives, and we will all bring the results back to all the members. That's one thing. But for the product itself, there's also this PM, the product management team, that tries to gather all information from support, from sales, from us, from the market, and they try to put them together on the, as mentioned before, the product board. So in this board, they use this tool to discuss with the other members. Basically, they discuss it with us, they discuss it with the higher stakeholders, and yeah, we can come to the same conclusion. We will go with this feature, we will go with X, we will go with Y. I think that's how it operates, but I'm not sure if you have different perspective about this.
Not different, but yeah, definitely when we were smaller, we were more bottom up than we are now. And as we grew, we tried to, again, balance it with the top down. And yeah, earlier we didn't even have product management team.
That's
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's pretty recent, 2 years, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
actually.
So now we have product management team, and even members from my own team say that I think some more direction is good. So we actually want to give more power to product management team so that maybe we can focus more on actually the implementation and stuff like that. So yeah, we try to accommodate these kinds of, suggestions and stuff like that, because when the team member changes, right, maybe the considerations change again. So
Right.
yeah, this is again a constant balancing act, I think.
Yeah, right. Because you want to give, again, or we kind of repeating ourselves many times, we want to give them the freedom to choose, but then we also need like a good range of where the options can go as well, right? And I think that's the job of the balancing act, as you mentioned, of the manager communicating with the higher ups as well. Yeah, you also mentioned a little bit about how your team culture has kind of shifted since you have joined. What are some of the big changes that maybe, Iskandar, you've noticed since we've kind of expanded a little bit? Our team is
Yeah.
almost double the size of when I joined.
Of course. I mean, when I joined the company, we have like less than 100 people in the company, but nowadays we have 300 people.
Yeah.
And I think in the past, from the engineering team, we can kind of just fit everyone in a single room with less than 15 people. But nowadays, our number of engineers are like 40, almost 40. So that's definitely one of the biggest shifts. We cannot just have the same level of freedom. I mean, we try to, but there's definitely the cons, right? It needs more time to have the consensus.
Right.
So we actually try to split into smaller groups, but still we don't want to lose the quality. So that's why we still have this kind of like regular communication, which I believe this is like the most important key. Like you need to communicate.
Yeah.
And other than that, like this shift that I experienced, let's say, yeah, but mainly I feel like we still have this kind of like freedom culture even after like 7 years work here. And or probably the language. I mean, when I joined, like a lot of members, they cannot speak English yet.
That's true.
I think there's like a statistics, right? I joined like the average TOEIC score, like maximum TOEIC score is 990, but I think at the time it's only like 400-ish, but nowadays it's almost 800 average. So that's really
Good job.
have
Good
like
job.
a lot of difference in the communications.
Yeah, I'd say this puts me in mind of, I think if earlier in our career we have a meeting in which all members of development team are there.
One
we haven't
room,
done it. I don't know how many years
Yeah,
since
because
we
you
have.
cannot fit everyone in one room anymore.
Yeah, I remember like upstairs we used to just like two long tables, right? Just everybody would fit on that little line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. But it does feel like whenever people join though, it's just like, oh, this person has been in our team for so long. And, like every time, I don't really feel like anybody's out of place, which is
Which is
again,
nice, nice feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that the trick that we like to use is, again, to balance between bottom up and top down. Now that we have more people, we ended up having like sub-teams, sub-units. And there, the bottom up culture is still flourishes, right? And then in interaction with other sub-teams, sub-units, maybe we need more top down sometimes.
Yeah. So like it's kind of going down right now. Now that you've kind of gone up a little bit, now you can just watch the bottom up happening somewhere a little bit lower down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So
Basically, keeping the balance is important.
yeah, definitely, I agree. Like all this, a lot of changes, a lot of new people, a lot of everything happening. It does really. This is really why we value communication in our company. So it's a really, really important part and really big part of the screening process in general. And just like when we want to welcome somebody, because of this type of bottom-up culture, because of this type of like collaborative nature. We really want people who can communicate. Doesn't mean you have to be very talkative, but you have to be good at communicating. You have to make your case, make your point, while still being respectful, which is like a really tough balance, right? It's not that easy to actually do.
Yeah.
Right. It's pretty easy to just be like, I think it's called code monkey, right? Basically, you just do what you're told and you clock in, clock out, you're done. Like that's much easier than having to like think critically a lot and be like a good team player and adjusting to the dynamic and all this. So
and even with the recent corona, there's definitely a shift in the working style. I think we have differentiation, right, for that.
Oh yeah, we do.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much related where we need to adapt with the environment, because once everyone's doing remote work, it's definitely something needs to be changed. How we operate needs to be changed.
Yeah. So just what Iskandar just mentioned, we have one session about
Different
workation.
session,
A different session about new working style, workation, and working from home, things like this. It'll be tomorrow for our 6th session of HENNGE Talks. New working style. We have a special guest, Ogura-san, our CEO, CTO, will be joining us. So please stay tuned if you guys like to hear some insight from our CEO about how workation has affected us in our B2B company in Japan. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But we can come back a little bit. But yeah, like definitely like the workation thing as well, right? Like it's really important to promote this kind of thing, and the company does a really good job, I think, right? They really do allow us to have these moments to speak, and like as you mentioned, now that we're remote, it's a little bit harder to just have that. I really miss our coffee chats that we had.
That's true.
Just at like 3 p.m. we have our coffee, we can kind of just communicate like, oh, what are you doing? Like even just knowing that a little bit does really help. Like, oh, I heard they're doing this, they're busy, maybe we can push this to later. Or we know that they're open to doing this right now. So yeah, we can definitely accommodate that.
And we do try. I mean, I just tried this recently, but we used Donut to have like water cooler talks and stuff like that. I think it's really good.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Donut is like a Slack app we use that'll just kind of randomly pair you with members in our company. So yeah, again, just to really promote this communication, since we're all at home, we can't have these little coffee chats, these little 5-minute like, hey, how are you doing? How's the weather? How's your dog? Something like this, right? We don't have that opportunity anymore. So we have an app that kind of just randomly arranges us with 2 other random members in our company, and we get a chance to speak with them. So yeah, I really enjoy those as well. Like I meet like, it's always like, who are you? When did you join? It's like, well, I joined a year ago. It's like, oh my goodness.
That's explains things, right? Because if they just joined a year ago, we probably haven't met them.
Exactly. Yeah, recently the engineers as well, right? A lot of them came in from
definitely.
abroad, so I met so many faces. I'm like, I've only seen you on the screen.
Actually, that's also a funny story, because we had a workation together in Kyushu, like in June. And at that time, I think we met a lot of new members, and we kind of, oh, you are actually tall, or oh, you are actually not that tall, because in the Zoom you only see like like a square. Oh, this is the face, but we don't know the approximate height, right? But when we met the person, oh, you're actually like tall. Yeah. I think that's a very interesting, like, how do I say? Online communication helps, but it's always better to meet the person.
I definitely agree.
Totally. Yeah.
Any surprise first-time visits for Bagus when you met someone first time? It's like, oh my gosh.
I mean, I met some people for the first time in that workation.
True.
Yeah, definitely, it was fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm really happy that members are actually starting to join too. Yeah, definitely, we can grow our team, grow the communication, kind of improve. Definitely. One thing that actually Ogura-san, I'm just gonna quote him. He's like, if everybody is different and everybody's like unique and diverse, then nobody's really out of place, because everybody's out of place. So to be able to have this environment to welcome all these people, it's really important to be able to have this kind of idea, so nobody feels like, oh, am I doing something weird? Am I doing something that's not okay? But if everybody's just kind of doing their own thing, then you just do your own thing. And I think that's a really important part of how we can foster all this unique ideas, diverse backgrounds, and encourage all these people to speak up when maybe in other companies they would not be encouraged to do so. Yeah, awesome. We have some questions. Maybe we can get into these a little bit.
Sure.
What do you guys think?
Sure.
Okay, so one anonymous attendee. Hello again. I've heard you were in the last session as well. But do you, Iskandar, and maybe Bagus as well, yeah. Do you guys do any overtime or on-call type things? I heard that's common in some places.
Yeah, good question. So for overtime, I don't think I do it that much. So usually in a month, I think I only do like several hours of overtime in total. Like it's less than 10 usually, so that's pretty like not much overtime. And for on call, I don't think we have much issues on call. I mean, we try to have this kind of a fail-safe system definitely. So even for some products, we deploy it in 2 regions with automatic failover. So for most cases, we don't have this kind of issues. We can always deploy it during working hours. We don't need to deploy things outside working hours. I think there's used to be like a case like probably 4 or 5 years ago during the big migration. We did it in the weekend, but it's only like a one-time thing. It's not something that happened regularly.
Yeah, I've only heard of one or 2 cases,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. It's
Even
very
like the whole
rare,
history
yeah.
that I've heard about. So yeah.
Yeah, again, overtime on call, same as Iskandar for overtime. I think usually for me every month I go over like by 4 or 5 hours. That's it. And for on call, I think we've been here a while,
Yeah.
so definitely we have came across that, but maybe it's like once a year, if that. So, yeah.
I see. Yeah. Hopefully that answered your question. Yeah, I think me as well. Like, I don't really think most members have too much overtime. Maybe sales members sometimes when the customers have to, if their
Some
schedule's late.
customers demand definitely.
Right. It's more like on their side then, rather than us kind of forcing them to work much later. So, yeah, we don't do that here. Yeah. We have another question regarding how are daily tasks handled and assigned? Ticketing tools, things like this. Are they assigned by the team leads, or do the engineers decide their own task? Additionally, so Tenzin also asked related, so like how are tasks delegated and distributed among developers in the team?
I think this is, as I mentioned, it depends on the team, but as my personal experience, we usually have this kind of issues for the next release. And usually every engineer, they can volunteer themselves first. Because sometimes the features are related to, how do I say, things that you used to work in the past, right? So you probably already know, oh, this feature, I used to work with this issue before, so I will take this issue. At the end, if there's still some leftovers on the task, the team leaders will open it to everyone and ask, oh, do you want to take this issue, or do you have time to take this issue, or do you want to learn something new by taking this issue? I think that's kind of the important bit. So because we don't want to like just say, oh, you need to do this, we try to avoid that in general, but we still want to have the task done, right? So that's why we kind of say, oh, do you want to learn something new by taking this issue? So we kind of like try to offer and pull the members to like work on the issue. But most of the times the members are like very proactive, which is also nice. They usually like volunteer themselves to take the issue. So I think in general there's like, it's not that much problems in assigning the issues itself.
Yeah, my team is pretty much just as Iskandar mentioned.
Yeah.
So in the GitHub issue board, we have like issues in backlog, in progress, done column, something like that. And then we need to move everything to the done column eventually, right? And definitely I see more often in the GitHub issues that people assign themselves rather than being assigned. But sometimes that happens. Maybe in our daily meeting, wait, I think you worked on this before. Why don't you work on this? And then something like that happens.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. And in the company, I think it is rewarded for us to be able to create and manage our own issues. That's what we expect from our senior engineers, actually. So yeah, definitely as you be here longer, that's how you're gonna shift, I think.
Yeah, you will adapt with the style.
Yeah, I think that's really important, right? To maintain and also like to be inside it. It's like a little bit different as well, right? Yeah. Especially as you guys are a little bit more senior now, you guys have to kind of put on your senior level pants and kind of make sure everything is going according to our our standards, I guess. That's one way to put it. Okay, we have some more questions. Thank you guys, by the way. If you guys have anything you'd like to ask us specifically, please put in the Q&A part and we'll get to them if we can.
Or if you want to know more details from our previous answers just now, you can also
Anything at all.
put it on the chat.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, we also have, this is an interesting one a little bit. Yeah, so you mentioned there are a lot of cultural differences. Does that ever cause issues? It's a little bit of like a salty question, but.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely. I think the style itself, because let's say, I mean this is not like kind of stereotype, but some Western members, they're kind of more direct, low context, so they usually we will speak out their minds directly, right? But sometimes the member doesn't feel comfortable, especially like the Asian people. So I think that's kind of frictions happens from time to time. But yeah, we try to communicate with both sides, right? We try to explain, that the member doesn't mean that actually, just like his style of communication. So that happens from time to time. But most of the times, I think it's kind of solved. I think we also like this kind of like survey internally, and I think like the satisfaction level is like 90%-ish in the communication. Like relationship is almost 100%. I think like everyone is pretty happy with the relationship. So yeah, I don't think there's much issues on the communication. Yeah, because we don't usually get angry with someone, and if something's wrong, it means the system is wrong. I mean, or the workflow, I mean. So let's say if there's like a bug in the production, it's not someone's fault. It's just that, why we cannot catch that before it got released to the production. So I think this kind of culture is important. So instead of blaming a specific member, we should take a look again to our workflow, to our system, and fix it. So yeah, I think that's why we feel like we have this kind of good relation with everyone. We can just hang out on the weekend, go to the karaoke with other members.
Yeah. For my case, definitely the high context, low context thing is probably one of the growing pains we encountered a few years ago. And yeah, again, it's not that one is right, one is wrong. It's just how do we cater to everybody, right? I think I find myself as I meet more members from other parts of the world, I find that I need to explain myself a lot, which makes sense, right? People want transparency to a certain point. So that's something that I learned over the years. But yeah, for interpersonal relationship, me, myself, I haven't had any problems with anybody. So that's why I stayed here for as long as I did.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The communication style is definitely something that it's like a little hurdle you have to get over whenever you're in like an international environment, right? So
definitely.
Yeah, even people who are native to the language which you're using, which is English here, yeah, for native people too, like you kind of have to not lower your language level, but you have to adjust to like the global English, you know, which I thought was always really interesting. Like,
I think that's also kind of like interesting story, because sometimes there's like a loss in translation.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so I think in Japanese, sometimes the language itself, when they translate to English, it becomes like very direct for some reasons. And like one member mentioned, is he asking me directly to do it or what? Like sometimes it's not clear, right? And sometimes for Western members, they want to get more, how do I say, clear, not fake comment, how do I say? Because sometimes our instruction, right? So I think that happens from time to time, but yeah, we always like try to adapt ourselves. Probably he doesn't mean that, and we try to clarify, is it correct? Oh yeah, I actually means it like this. So I think that's very important. So instead of like just keep silent, we actually need to talk to the person directly and ask, do you mean this? And yeah, they will clarify happily. So usually, it's not a problem.
Yeah, we have a whole Slack channel just for like language, like differences, and like, I learned this in Japanese today. This actually doesn't mean what I thought it was, and like vice versa for English.
Which is very interesting.
Yeah, I still remember the emoji one. That one was like the looking up emoji. But people thought it meant you were looking at the comment above, whereas most other global members thought they're rolling their eyes at the comment above. So it's just like, is she mad or did she acknowledge what's happening? So yeah, it's very that's definitely a big part.
It's also like like the hand sign, right?
Oh yeah.
I think especially in Japan, let's say if you use like 6, 7. I think that's different, right? Every country, in other countries 7 is like this, but in Japan it's like this. So
like Chinese, it's
or
6.
what nods means, what thumbs up means. So I think that's very important when you work in diverse. You need to understand, like, probably that person doesn't mean that. You need to clarify, is that correct or not?
Right.
Or do you have like any funny experience?
I mean, I was trying to find an example, but Sean's was better. The example that I thought of was, I think this is very recent. We tried to ask permission to do something, and then the person we asked to say, you should do this so others can help.
Oh yeah.
But then it was like, wait, we're not asking for help. We're just asking if this is okay or not. And then the other person said, I mean, cooperate or align with, so that they know what you're doing, something like that.
Yeah. That's definitely what comes with like when people are really active and trying to interact and communicate, right? Everybody's really open to doing so, but then that will also lead to like, maybe it's 80% correct, maybe it's only 95% correct. But I think the fact that everybody's outputting is also really, really really big.
Yeah.
Mhm. All right, let's digress a little bit and come back to the questions. So one person asked, how does the onboarding of a new employee look like, particularly fresh graduates with limited work experience?
So the onboarding itself is kind of like, there are different kinds of onboarding. There's like company-wide onboarding, and there's like the team level onboarding. And for company-wide, it's kind of pretty similar. You get introduced to all the products, you get introduced to all different teams, and you get introduced to all the procedures, let's say the security management and stuff. For the team itself, they have different onboarding based on the experience, because we also have internship, right? Our internship itself is kind of part of the technical onboarding, actually.
Right.
So when a fresh graduate, let's say, join without doing the internship, they will probably get assigned to the same tasks as the interns first. Build something with AWS, do something with Terraform, like manage the infrastructure as a code. And afterwards, we will have some kind of easy to start tickets on GitHub.
Right.
So we just assign them. Oh, can you take over this simple, let's say, translation issues, right? Because you want to get the feeling, making a pull request, get a review from the others, get it merged, see how it goes from the CI/CD until it gets automatically deployed in the environment. Afterwards, we start to assign with the specific features. So we have like this kind of like small features. Oh, can you implement this simple notification for this feature? And yeah, they will start to get like more proactive afterwards. They will start, oh, what about this? They will start like giving out ideas. And at one point, they will be like completely independent.
I don't have much to add, but to illustrate the onboarding experience, I think in the first day, that's mostly the company onboarding. And then maybe at the very end of the day, you have like an overview of the project that you're part of. But then, yeah, the second day, you do the technical onboarding thing. And again, as Iskandar mentioned, if it's relevant to the initial assignment that we also give to our interns, then you're probably going to do that. But I'm also aware that other teams that do something very specific, they actually skip right to the first issues, like good first issues. So yeah, we label our issues with that, something that's good for new members to do, things like that. Yeah, but meeting-wise, things like that, from the second day, as far as I'm aware, for most of our teams, you will already be joining all the meetings. You will keep joining. So yeah, it's very fast, I'd say.
Yeah, and recently we also help them with the learning support. So we add the Udemy, we give everyone Udemy license to learn. And we also have this kind of like, how do I say, not milestone, but a kind of like suggestions, courses that you can take in Udemy, so they can actually self-study.
Learning path, I
Yeah,
think.
like learning path, learning path. So they can actually learning it by themselves. But definitely we want them to be more proactive, actually. We will like glad answers their questions if they need help. But we want them to be like independent in the long term too. So we want to keep the balance.
Yeah. I feel like it comes with a lot of balancing act of a lot of freedom, a lot of structure. It's really hard, but I think
that's the challenge and the fun part.
Yeah, definitely what makes our environment really, I don't know. I've been here for 3 years as well, right? It's very nice. Like I really like working with members here, and even if we're different teams, like our work doesn't really, I mean, besides like things like this, our work doesn't really overlap too much, but we do get a lot of opportunities to speak. So yeah, okay. So we have some more questions from Tenzin. So what does growth and development look like at your company? So maybe this is a little bit more from after you join for a little bit. Yeah, so maybe if you guys can share a little bit about your journey.
Is it like career path or?
Yeah, career path, or yeah, just in general, just kind of the journey in general, like how to kind of.
I think from my own like experience, especially I joined as a fresh graduate, so it's been kind of a ride, right? So starting from the junior members, join a team, and when I joined the team, I just like built these kind of features, implemented, and I moved to another team after like 2 or 3 years and start to kind of like this sub team leader, but on the technical side, which is something similar to what Bagus experienced, like basically having some other members like working together on the technical side. And afterwards, yeah, some members, they become the team leader, and the team leader is also kind of different every product. Some team leaders do more engineering work, some team leaders do more management work. It's up to them. They can always assign other members to do the other tasks.
Right.
So let's say if the leader likes to do more engineering work, they usually assign a sub leader who help the management part too. But if the team leader already do a lot of management work, probably just assign technical leaders. And afterwards, it's also the division level. What I'm doing right now is the division level, which is all the product team, 40 members as a manager. And yeah, after that, I'm not sure. Like probably you can become like the executive at one point, but I think that's maybe like the long term.
Executive Iskandar incoming 2025.
20 what, like 40 or something. Hopefully, yeah, I don't know.
So something I want to emphasize, I think maybe this would answer Tenzin's question, is that your expertise is not necessarily your position. So yeah, we do have like an expertise ladder system,
Right.
let's say. We call it belts.
Yeah.
Like in martial arts. Like, so maybe when you join, you're on the first belt, and then to go to the second belt, it's not the same way for everybody. So in our one-on-one, they ask me like, do you want to do more development? Do you want to do more management? Things like that. And at that time I asked, I answered, I want to like half and half. And so now I'm in the position that I am, and I'm on a certain belt, but that doesn't mean if you're not half and half management and development that you cannot be in the same belt. No. If you go 100% development, you can be in a higher belt that I am. Things like that.
And vice versa. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the interesting thing where the member can have higher belt than the manager.
That's true.
Because they have more expertise on the technical side, for example. So that can happen.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting. We don't really have like very specific like rank in our title. I just know most of you just like engineers, and then I'm just like, oh, you're deputy something now? What?
Yeah, on the paper we are all engineers, but on the role we take a certain role in the company.
Right. Yeah, the effective role, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. Next, we have one from Kongs. Do you have any experience working with people who transitioned into software development mid-career? How does the mentoring work in your teams for new engineers? So I think we answered the second part a little bit. Yeah, I think we have some members. He's actually not here right now, but some members who have transitioned from different jobs into engineering, right, mid-career. How was your experience like onboarding them been different, if at all?
Actually, recently we got a member which is not from engineering. Like there's a member that they just take a boot camp to transition between the jobs. So they took a boot camp for 3 months, I think, like a full-time boot camp, and they learn some kind of technical stack. And when they join, it's actually the same. We just treat them as other engineers. So depending on the level, for some, if they are very fresh, then it's probably the same with what we give to the interns level. But if they are like more experienced, and we can just like assign to specific tasks directly. There's also like another member from used to work as sales in the previous company and learn some technical skills and actually good in English. And just work. I think that's not an issue because we don't actually, how do I say, require a formal degree. There are actually some members that not high school graduates, but it's probably harder to get the visa. Yeah, but anyway, we don't actually care as long as you can prove it to us that you have the capability to do it. So you can just join.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. You have anything to add, Bagus?
Not much, but yeah, we don't take a look at the background so much. Of course, if you are from computer science background, that doesn't mean like you're at a disadvantage or anything, but yeah, we took a look more of what you've been doing prior to joining us, things like that. And that's why we have like a couple of interviews before you join, right? And yeah, we have quite a lot of stories like that. People from meteorology, people from law work with us now every day.
The important part is communication skills. So during the interview, one thing that we usually check is definitely the communication skill first. We always believe that technical skill is something that can be acquired later.
Right.
But if the communication skill is already not that good from the beginning, then it's probably hard to continue working together.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so definitely your background doesn't matter too much. Like, of course, if you have, like you said, good technical background.
That's a benefit.
Yeah. Definitely a good thing. Yeah, hope that answers your question. think it was Con. Oh goodness, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the
I
meteorology
lost
is
your
fun.
name.
It's about the weather, right? So it's like if there's like a typhoon, you will always ask this member,
Oh my god.
is it okay to come to the office tomorrow? Or what do you think? If this member takes this, probably we should not come to the office. It's like there's like an internal joke.
Oh. Yeah.
Meteorology.
There are definitely a lot of interesting people that kind of shift in, right? But
Hmm.
just to add a little bit, I think it's really important that if you don't have a formal background, though, that you have something kind of to show that you are interested in it as well,
Right.
right? Like maybe some
strength, yeah.
extracurricular something or personal projects or like passion project. I think is definitely a good sign for us, right?
Yeah.
So
Very good point.
yeah. Because some people, I'm not saying any of you audience members, but some people they just kind of try to go to the boot camps like I have this skill now, so maybe my pay will go up or something. But that's not what we're looking for. We're looking more people who are passionate and.
But there's cases like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
there
cases
are.
people from bootcamp join too. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So another question we have. I can answer this one. But is Japanese required to work at HENNGE?
Absolutely not. But I mean, if you want to survive in Japan itself, probably you need some,
Right.
right? Let's say
Right.
if you go to the city office, you cannot speak Japanese. That might be a bit hard.
Yeah,
It's
a little bit.
manageable, but it's probably a bit harder. But for our working environment itself, Japanese language is definitely not needed, which is nice. Yeah.
Yes.
But it does help.
It does help.
It does help. It does help.
But
it is
yeah.
appreciated, but at the same time, I think you'll be hard pressed to look to improve your Japanese
To
in
survive
HENNGE.
in the environment. I mean, in
Yeah.
the outside HENNGE, for example.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important. Like.
And also, the company provides Japanese language support for you. So, I mean, I didn't live in Japan when I joined HENNGE, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I actually got on that program, and now I am able to survive
Able to survive.
so far.
I think that's important, right? You need
Yeah.
to like get your own apartment,
Right.
when you go to the city office, solve all your like bills, let's say electrical, water. Right?
Adult
you need to make
things.
those your own things. So even though you cannot speak Japanese, but you still need to survive on that part, like outside HENNGE.
Right.
We help you like opening your bank account, like some parts you can always ask our members to help, but some of the personal details I think you still need to do it by yourself, right? Sometimes. So I think that's why it's still advisable to have a bit of basic Japanese.
Yeah, even as a Japanese blooded person myself, I still need to ask HR sometimes to ask like, oh, what do I do with this bill? This is red. I don't know what to do with this. I can get the red letter in the mail, which is like a very bad sign most of the time. But yeah, I even have to ask, and they're very helpful. So yeah, Japanese not required, but definitely in the company, right? A majority of our clients right now are Japanese. So and our sales members are Japanese. So being able to communicate with them in Japanese is a really nice bonus, right? Especially
it's also nice.
yeah.
Like sometimes you can just have a casual talk with them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it does help a little bit. And I think knowing the language even a little bit helps you understand the person from that culture to speak in your language. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
knowing
I mean,
like,
we have this story like, about the language, like the kanji. Oh, actually, the meaning is different. So I think having a basic understanding will definitely help in the communication.
right.
Hmm.
So yeah, hope that answers your question. Do you have any activities outside normal working hours? Yeah, we have a bunch, right? There's a bunch of fun clubs that we have.
With HENNGE members, we have a lot of fun activities. Some members go karaoke, some members go hiking, some members like taking photos together, like fun photography. And yeah, some members just play some board games like D&D together.
Yeah, we do board game nights
Yeah.
every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think it will up to the person itself, like what they are like to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one for everything. There's like like you said, hiking one. There's like driving, skiing. I think
Yeah.
there's like a DJ one.
I saw like some nice photos from hiking channel. Yeah.
Right,
Ooh.
right.
They went to like hike the mountains together, stay in the tents.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
as we mentioned before, we use Slack, and then you can create like fun channels for basically anything you like. So yeah, you can have lots of like out of work activities with other members as well.
Yeah, today's actually Wednesday, so board game night tonight, guys.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, and then think we have time. We have a little bit more time. So question specifically for Iskandar.
Mhm.
You have been singled out.
Sorry about this. It's okay.
How do managers at your company handle situations where employees are not able to achieve their objectives? This is
Actually,
like a
that's
real.
an interesting question because there's also a reasons why someone couldn't perform well. Actually, sometimes it's just like life events. So let's say having a new baby and they are busy with that. So we usually talk to them. We kind of try to clarify definitely the career path because we have these belt requirements. We will ask which career path do you want to take, and if you don't want, what kind of activities you want to do for the company in the future. And if it's because of some kind of personal reasons, we all kind of accept it because we understand like sometimes it's hard to have a new baby, or you just move, or you get married or divorced. So yeah, we give them time, and we will take a look again, let's say after several months, and if the situation doesn't change, we will talk again with the members. But in general, in HENNGE, we never like fire. I mean, in engineering, we never fire anyone. So that's one thing, right? So we always believe that communication is important in solving these issues, but we as the managers, we also need to care and understand about the member situations, because there's a lot of, how do I say, life events can go wrong. And yeah, they might need take some time to recover.
Yeah, definitely in this kind of current situation, right? A lot of unforeseen circumstances from a lot of different directions. So
even like with Corona,
right? So yeah, definitely a very difficult thing to manage. Then on the flip side, they're following up asking, is there an opposite? So for high performing employees, is there something like kind of extra benefit?
Definitely, we have the bonus system where you can apply for specific activities. So let's say if you can become even a speaker in a conference, international conference, we also actually have this kind of benefits where if it's an international conference, the company will support you. They will pay for your accommodation, for your flights, and in addition to a small amount of cash that you can get. And if you have like kind of other activities outside your main task, so let's say if you introduce someone to the company, or you can actually sell HENNGE products to other companies, you can just apply and get some money.
Nice. So
there are those cases in the application. So yeah, it's definitely helpful.
Definitely. So yeah, I think we are approaching the end of time for our session. So yeah, thank you so much for both of you for joining us for this talk.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so we hopefully the audience got some insight into what it's like, and from two of our senior members in our development team who have been in the company for a very long time, kind of seen us evolve and change over the years, and how the team dynamic has shifted as well. So yeah, hopefully you guys are all able to gain some insight into the bottom-up culture, what that actually means, how that actually affects the communication style, and how it's all like a balancing act, as they have mentioned many times. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed the talk, and the next talk will be starting at 4 p.m. JST. It will be about tech conferences and how to leverage that to increase your value as a professional and in personal growth. So yeah, thank you very much for joining, and we will see you in an hour. Yay. Thank you. Yay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.